Okay folks, I wanted to point out a few things here that we've all been on RC groups been working at, and noticed a few little areas that need just a little bit of improvement and will help here. Instead of writing a big long statement here, I thought I'd just do a quick video. For the hatch popping up, you guys probably saw it in my first maiden video where mine come up and I didn't even notice it from the ground, but I took some magnets I had. These are some that I actually took off of another 14mm FMS bird and transferred them to this one. They're N50s. You need something around N50, 52. And I just recessed them and epoxied them in on the canopy there. Both sides, right in front of the snaps seems to be the best area. I thought about putting them back in this area right here, but I just thought that would be better. I was trying to, there was a little more meat there to do it. Also, somebody on the RC groups, and I can't remember who, came up with this little trick, and it's really ingenious. Try and zoom in here. But that's just a popsicle stick. It's not even glued in. It's just pressed in behind this snap, either the front or the back. You really don't need it on both sides, but I guess you could. I only did one, and it's plenty. And it's what I did my last two flights with. That helps hold the canopy on really secure, so that when you're flying, you don't have a problem with it popping off. You can actually tell here when I put it on. I almost have to press it down really tight. You can hear it snap. It is not coming off. Okay, and then I've actually got my canopy off because I'm doing some work on the inside of it here. To the back, pry this thing off to get it off, so I don't worry about my canopy coming off or coming loose in flight, even during aerobatics and so forth. And that's all I did. You can glue it there if you want, but I just got mine pressed in there right now. I can actually take it out if I want. But that and the magnet seems to help pretty good on holding it. Also, everybody's talking about, and even I noticed it, posted some earlier pictures of the alligator skinning causing inside the canopy when you can see in one area there, this is actually the area that didn't do it so bad. I've covered mine with aluminum tape. Now I went over the paint. I recommend that you get the paint off of it. I CA'd this down because it peeled right back up the paint, but this is just regular aluminum tape, which actually allows you to add some denting detail if you want. And I'm actually detailing in the back of mine, and that'll stop the alligator skinning it from hiding it, because the heat builds up inside the canopy area from just the sunshine. And when I did mine, it was only 68 degrees outside, and it still alligator skinned it. But this thing acts like a magnifying glass, and it will generate heat in there. And when it's glued on, like they send it to us, and most of us that have redone them, and get mine on there, it actually forms a vacuum inside here, okay, and concentrates even a little heat, makes it hotter, okay. So that's going to cause some alligator skinning up on your dash, which looks ugly, and right back and through here is where it's real noticeable. You'll notice that right in this area, right here, next to the pilot, it didn't do it. That's because of this area right here shaded it. That's one reason why I didn't go ahead and tape over it, and I just left it, and I only did the major areas. Like I said, you can see my tape line right here, and I went ahead and aluminum taped this whole back part and the canopy, because you can fashion that aluminum tape with a credit card and smooth it down. You can see some rub marks of mine, and then just repaint it. And of course I've added a rim right there. It's just some rubber sealing, and repainted it and so forth like that, and of course redone it in zinc green. And for the scale painting purposes, sometimes this floor inside on some of the Mustangs is actually wood. So I painted mine zinc. I've seen photographs of it in both colors. May go back and change it later. I've got mine off right now because I was working on my pilot figure. I think it was B-Nick was asking me about the paint not drying. This guy being vinyl, you notice that I've repainted mine, kind of take him away from looking like a MiG pilot, make him look a little more World War II-ish, if you want to say. Just some simple repaint, and the enamel paints on here, when they got hot, they didn't dry. So I went over them with Krylon Clear, and another thing that will help that is if you'll get from your hobby store dull coat lacquer and paint over this, it'll also take the sheen and the shine off of it, make him look more flat, and help that paint dry. I did this last night and he's not dry, not sticky anymore at all, and that helped that quite a bit. Let it dry overnight. Just some old modeling tricks from my competition modeling days. But this turned out really nice, so I won't have to worry about alligator skinning inside the cockpit anymore. There's one area up on the tail. You can kind of see it right here where it started to do it, but it's not real bad, and that's on the exterior. It's the only part on the airplane, so you don't have this nice smooth finish. But there's a point I wanted to cover, kind of thought a video might help a little better to help hold the canopy down. Is some magnets. I happen to have bigger ones. Usually everybody uses smaller ones, and that wood trick right there is actually the best. That'll help the snap from hold that button on the canopy a lot better, and do it on both sides. Another area, the Velcro strap that they give with the stock airplane is a little small, and the Velcro doesn't hold real well. I read a report of a guy actually having his battery fly out and asked him if he had it Velcroed in. He said yes, but I checked mine before I changed it, and it'll actually allow the battery to slip. It doesn't hold it as well as it should. It's okay, but I would recommend pulling this block out. It's just rubber cemented in. Put some pressure on it. It'll come out, and make your own Velcro strap that's maybe a little wider. I wanted something that would hold it a little more secure and with industrial grade Velcro so that it definitely holds the battery down. Also, there's an air cooling problem. If you'll see right here, I took my Dremel tool and I drenched this trench a little deeper so that air actually flows underneath the battery coming in from the front scoop, and will allow it to cool that battery a lot better. And the insides here. Also some modifications on the bottom to fit. I'm running two Nanotech 5000 milliamp 3S batteries at 2550C and the 4590Cs. And they both perform real well. I've had to make some extra cutout notches on mine to allow for some of the changed avionics parts. I'm using a bigger 8 amp Exceed RC BEC. It's actually a switching BEC, and I have a reverser on mine, which is what that notch cutout was in order to allow this canopy to sit down. I've also, you can see where I've made some changes there to allow it to fit with the larger batteries, and brought this back, and this is actually beveled in a little bit too. Now then, I've also punched 4 holes in the bottom. When this canopy is glued back on, you'll see there, and they're actually on both sides of the seat. One there, one there. That's going to allow hot air that builds up inside this canopy when it's glued back on to escape, so that it won't form a vacuum and hold the air. I recommend that to you guys that are seeing this problem. Just punch some holes in the floorboard. It's not going to hurt anything, and it'll allow some of the hot air to get out, even though it's on the bottom, as opposed to maybe punching holes in the canopy, which we all know that hot air rises. So, but this will allow the hot air to get out. It'll also allow cool air that's getting forced in through the front scoop to allow it to get up in here and force that hot air out and replace it with moving cool air. So that's what my thought was behind that. And I used 4 holes. Just use my Dremel tool and a small Dremel bit, Dremel sanding tool, and just routed some holes there. I've covered this in some nylon tape to help hold it, because I actually sanded it down to where it's really thin. You can almost see through the cockpit floor right there, and just put some clear ducting tape from Walmart on it to allow better clearance for all the avionics gear here, because it does sit down really tight right here, which is why they did the ribbon cable trick, to help avoid all this. I've bypassed ribbon cables and done Ys on everything. Just because some of the retract problems we thought that might have been affecting, I'm still not 100% sure that was actually caused. The ribbon cable's probably not that bad at all. I just personally didn't like the idea myself, though it worked. I actually did do a flight with it and didn't have any problems. My retract was because of a shorted wire when I got home and was closing it up. and there's my electronic setup in there. But I am running gyros in here, but right now they're bypassed except for the one on the rudder. I do like using these little Turnigy nano gyros. They work really well for the airplanes for help stabilizing them and what have you. And then the custom made. And then I have an Exceed 100 amp ESC in here as well, only because I plan on upgrading later. The stock ESC is just fine and works great, but it is pushing the limit just a little close with what this thing runs at watt. Especially for those of us who did the prop mod, it starts to pull an extra 5 to 10 amps in the airplane. But the cooling is the issue. If you didn't notice it when you also got your plane, the sticker is over these vent holes. Take you a little piece of metal, heat it up, and punch those holes out. This is cooling. This is where air gets in and helps air get to cool that inside there around the ESC. That'll help, and I did that when I first got it. So let's see here. It's not going to show too well. Let me get a light on here. Light. Okay, that's a little better. So that we can get air down that tunnel, that little tunnel right there, past the ESC, and also getting air intake from these holes. Open these holes up, because about, at least on mine it was anyway, a good 90% of it was actually covered up with the clear sticker. It was only this bottom row of holes that was open. The rest of these were all closed shut. I have every one of these holes exposed to the airstream now. They're actually, I just poked holes in the decal. And we all know about this little mod that I think it was Wingman who did this, and I just copied his idea. But this is an excellent mod right here. He countersunk and glued his in, which is fine. I just cut that hole out of that detent that's in the molding right there, and actually moved the ESC up there, cranked it sideways, so it's directly underneath this. And I'm using the same thing, magnets from KandJMagnets.com, aluminum from Hobbytown, or tin from Hobbytown, USA. Cut it oversized so that it overlaps, put magnets on it, and it holds it in flight, and it does not come off in flight. My last video you guys saw that I did the remix on, this was actually on it, never budged, and everything stayed super cool. It also allows extra air to get up into the airplane and travel past this. Without that, air actually comes in through here. The pressure builds up through here, though we have the vents in the back of the airplane, but because it's so closed up right here with the canopy sitting on it, there's not much air allowed to pass past about this point right here where the canopy sits down the deepest to get back there to escape. So it wants to force this back end up right here, and that's what was popping the canopy up. Is a lot of air pressure building up that's ramming in from the front of the airplane and then pushing up on the top of that, and the snap's not being tight enough to hold it. Between this mod and relieving some of the pressure up front, that will help that greatly, quite a bit. But I wanted to make a little video and show you guys some of that, and that'll help here. Those are some quick mods. Popsicle stick, some magnets, vent cooling done here by Wingman. Okay, plastic, whatever you want to choose, plastic, plywood, tin, put it on with magnets, glue it on, good mod. Open these holes up in these vents that come with the model so that they breathe and will allow air to get in. And that should help the flight of your plane quite a bit. Aluminum skin or aluminum tape painted on the canopy. Some holes punched into the canopy floor. And it's just inconspicuous spaces where they don't show that much. Actually, you can't even see those holes when the canopy's down because it's dark and they turn black and they just kind of blend in. But it allows air to get in, cool air to get in, circulate through the canopy. Trying to move the camera here. Allows it to circulate through the canopy, forcing the hot air out. And you need some pretty good little size holes in there to allow that to get out. Typically you want more exit than you do have input, but sometimes we're limited by what we can work with. But I've done this, and this kind of helps the pressure build up in the canopy and reduces the heat that's building up in there, along with the aluminum tape, and you can see the separation line there from causing that alligator skinning right there that used to be really nice and smooth. Okay, use some Valspar, Krylon flat if you're painting your pilot like this. Because he's vinyl, he does sometimes take the paint a little longer to dry. Use that Tester's dull coat to go over the colors once they are dry, and believe me, it'll seal them up and then dry them out real quick, usually overnight or 24 hours, and then it won't be so sticky anymore. Same thing applies to the skin. If you're having the paint problem and you're repainting your airplane to a different scheme, like some of us have done with the red tails and so forth, and the paint's dry and sticky, you may have some bad paint, some bad pigment. That'll help it dry a little better. Okay, hopefully this was helpful. And my Dark Angel, love my lady, she's just so nice. My Ferocious Frankie Dark Angel, or should I say the Dark Angel Ferocious Frankie. Okay, and the weathering, you guys already know about that. A lot of times with that smoke paint that I was telling you about, if you use a brush and put it in there, because it's water based, and we were talking about this earlier, the lines are way oversized and dramatized for a real plane, so be careful on how they get dark. But you can put it on there and then take your finger or towel and kind of wipe it down a little bit. Will take away some of the exaggeration so that they're not so dramatic. Though I like mine a little overdone, just because in the air it's a little more visible than you can see it, though it's not exactly scale. Okay, but there she is. And there's some of the ideas I thought I would throw into a real quick little video, instead of several hundred little posts between all of us throwing questions back and forth. It does not hurt this canopy at all. That's the relief for my servo reverser that sits up a little higher than it should. And the holes, the relief for the battery, because the batteries are a little bigger. My battery bay, go back here, look, my battery bay is actually hollowed out to fit two 3S Nanotechs to make the 6S, so that it fits in there real nice and tight, because the battery actually comes to about, yeah, I think it actually pops out to about here when it's sitting flush all the way back in there. I fly this plane a little nose heavier than normal, but it actually flies really nice nose heavy, so I like it a lot better. That'll help quite a bit. Hope this helps, guys. I'll put up more later. Bye.